Hi everyone, my name is Anisha Sarab and I'm the Education Officer at Victoria Law Foundation. Today we have some brilliant speakers today to talk about studying law at university. But before we get started, I would like to do Acknowledgement of Country. Victoria Law Foundation acknowledges the traditional owners of country wherever you may be joining us. The officers of Victoria Law Foundation sit on the Wurundjeri land and we pay respect to their elders and to all the generations of Wurundjeri and other First Nations people, and acknowledge the lands were never ceded. We recognise the impact of colonisation, its legacy of injustice, and marginalisation of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. And we believe that acknowledging the past is an essential step in building a better, more equitable future. Victoria Law Foundation aims to break down the barriers to justice for all Victorians through our work in research, grants, and education. We are genuinely committed to making a contribution to a better justice system for all of us, especially those most vulnerable and in need. So just a few housekeeping things. All mics and cameras will remain off for all attendees. This webinar will be recorded and the chat function is reserved for all technical issues. And please use the Q&A question for all the questions you may have, and you will receive the slides and recording after the webinar.
Welcome everyone to Law Week 2022. I'm Fabiola, I'm the Education Manager of the Victoria Law Foundation. We're very excited to have you all here for our first student Q&A about studying and careers in the law. So moving on, today's program is very much aimed for year 11, 10, 11 and 12 students studying legal studies options or legal studies. Each speaker will touch on the highlights and challenges of being law students, including the transition from high school to law school, the expectations of law students and different legal careers that are available. Since today's session is a Q&A, we'll be monitoring the Q&A box closely. So we ask all participants to ask any questions they may have. I'm delighted to introduce our first speaker today, Abraham Lowe. Abe is in his final year of law at Monash University, studying a Bachelor of Laws and Arts double degree, a major in Chinese studies and minor in human geography. Abe is a second generation migrant, his parents having moved to Australia from China in the 1980s. His present plan after law school is to start his career in commercial law, and he's currently working at Allen's as part of their paralegal team. In Abe's spare time, he enjoys camping, basketball, cooking, and at the moment, the latest season of Better Call Saul. So I'll hand you over to Abraham now. Thank you.
Thank you, Fab, Anisha, Helen, and the rest of the VLF team for helping put this together. And thank you for all tuning in and for those watching the recording, when you're watching this from home. It feels just like yesterday that I was sitting my VC exams. So for all those students out there, I'd like to say good luck, study hard, also have some fun in your final years of high school. So why law? I think personally there are a couple of different reasons why I chose to study law at the end of VCE. Firstly, I did VCE legal studies, and I was really curious about law because of its important and foundational role in society and how it changes people's lives. Secondly, I always felt that my strengths were more geared towards writing, reading, and analysis rather than science and math, even though I did do chemistry and methods. And finally, I was drawn to law because of its need to think critically and analytically. So even if I didn't end up becoming a lawyer, I'd heard that many people had said to me that thinking like a lawyer is useful in a multitude of different careers and fields. So for uni preferences, I chose undergraduate law at Monash. I chose undergraduate law because I wanted to know sooner rather than later if I wanted to do law. And if I didn't like law, then I could switch out in my first year. I also chose arts because I enjoyed the variety of the subjects offered, and I thought it'd be a good break, good mental break from studying law. So 5.5 years later, I think I made the right decision for me. Now, on the topic of transitioning from a high school student to a law student, there are many challenges in the first couple of years of university, but there are a few that really stood out to me. Firstly, it's adapting to a new schedule at university. You will have a lot more freedom, and there's not going to be a teacher that breathes down your neck to get your assignments in. But Conversely, that requires more discipline on your own end to do assignments and meet deadlines. Secondly, learning the key skills of legal reading, writing, and analysis is hard. It's not like VC, which I found was quite a lot of memorization, but in university, it's the application of legal rules and principles. So for almost all my exams, they were all open book, meaning that you can take your notes in whatever you want, because they're not testing on your memory, but they're testing on your ability to apply these principles. And the last challenge was finding one's feet in an entirely new social setting, finding friends and a support network during university. So for each of these challenges, I have a few tips I'd like to share with you today. The first one is to get organized, and whether that's through a diary, a calendar app, or something which works for you, you really got to make sure that you keep track of your deadlines and work accordingly to it. For me, I found that doing smaller, more consistent amounts of study was way better than leaving all my work right before a deadline. I found that it made my life less stressful and gave me more flexibility to fit in fun things in life amongst work, uni, and study. I'd say my second piece of advice is to ask for help early and often. Universities will often have different support networks, such as tutors, librarians, that are all designed to help you build these key legal skills. And it might sound intimidating, but please ask plenty of questions in tutorials and lectures. If you have a question, there's a big chance that other people are thinking the exact same thing. And be patient with yourself too, because it's not easy to learn law. And my third piece of advice is to get involved with a society or club that resonates with you. These organizations are a great way to meet other people in the exact same boat as you, both within and outside your degree. For me, I'm extremely grateful for the connections that I made throughout university through these clubs, and they've been a great support and a valuable network once you get through your degree and start looking at careers outside the law school. Now, before I want to go on to my personal experience of employment and opportunities in law, I want to touch on a typical thing that people say about law school, that it is a competitive and stressful environment. And I won't lie and say that it's not competitive and not stressful at all, because it was for portions of my law degree. And for many people, it's a career in law, and grades are an important part of this. And I took law school seriously. But I think it's important to remember the importance of helping each other and being a friendly person within this competitive environment. Because ultimately, people won't remember if you get a distinction, a credit, or a pass on an assignment 2 weeks from when you get it back, 6 months, 3 years down the track. They will remember how you made them feel, whether you were a supportive or friendly person in a stressful environment or the opposite. And for me, my support network, which I touched on earlier, was a invaluable resource and gave me through the toughest parts of law school. And I feel that if I prescribe too hard to the idea of competition, to the detriment of my support network and the people around me, such as not helping each other out in lectures, tutorials, studying together for exams and exchanging notes, I feel I wouldn't be having the same positive experience that I'm sharing today. So my advice is on this front, law school might be stressful and competitive, but that doesn't mean you need to be too. And you can be the positive force and support that someone needs. I'll keep this next section brief, conscious of time, but there are many opportunities to get legal experience and work before graduating law school. Keep your eyes peeled on opportunities and don't be stressed about having the perfect application. The more you apply, the easier it gets. And don't fret if your pre-application experience is non-legal. For me, I had mainly hospitality experience before my first legal related job. And I found that my years at KFC, Starbucks, and a hotel were all invaluable in building up my interpersonal skills, handling high pressure situations, and being able to have a laugh when things aren't going to plan. For me, my personal journey was that I interned at the Victorian Law Foundation and then became the education officer, where I helped the team run programs like the one here today. I then started as a paralegal at Allen's, a commercial law firm where I am now, hoping to start my career in commercial law, having gone through the clerkship process this year. In short, I think it's a pretty fascinating area, one which plays a large role in shaping society, and one which I think is a great starting point for your career, as well as many firms having pro bono programs to also give back directly to the community. I hope that all my points today were topical and useful. Feel free to drop a question in the Q&A section. Remember, you're at the start of a very exciting time of your lives, and that's whether you choose law school or not. So remember to have fun, have a laugh. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Abe, for sharing. That was great. I think the most important takeaway definitely is the transition from high school to law school. Is it a lot more independent? But I think, like you were saying, the opportunities you get there and the friends that you make are lifelong, and it definitely does need to be a supportive environment. Even though it can be competitive at times, like you're going to need people to have a cry with when you're trying to polish off your references an hour beforehand. So I think, yeah, your talk was really great. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thanks, Abe. And we had a wonderful time with you at the foundation. And certainly if any of our listeners do want to do end up studying law, there are many internship opportunities out there that certainly can expose you to all different kinds of legal environments and give you skills that will help you in many ways. And certainly take on board Abe's comments about the importance of getting experience in other ways too, and the sort of skills from hospo and retail jobs and how you know they can help you in your future sort of serious career type prospects as well. Never disregard those sorts of opportunities, definitely. So thanks so much, Abe, and Abe will be available for some questions at the end of this session. So I'll hand over to you now, Anisha.
Sorry, our next speaker is Tessa. Tessa is in her 4th year of a Bachelor of Law Honours and Global Studies degree at ACU. She's particularly enthusiastic about advocating for the rights of those most vulnerable in society. Tessa was also an intern at Victoria Law Foundation earlier this year, working across the board with research, events and education and grants. So we're delighted to have Tessa back to speak about her university experience. Over to you, Tessa.
Hi everyone, as Anisha mentioned, my name is Tessa and I'm in my 4th year of a Bachelor of Law Honours and Global Studies at ACU. So why I chose law school. So my family is originally from Nepal, which is Mount Everest area, and I grew up and was born in Australia, but I had a huge connection to back home and would visit almost every year. And I just got to see, you know, what life was like in one of the poorest countries in the world. And it just transformed my whole life. And I had this huge desire to just give back and to help others. So like at the age of like 12, 16, I just tried to volunteer anywhere I could because I just loved people and I loved helping others. So I, volunteered at my local op shop, at retirement villages, at church, anywhere possible. And that soon developed into, I want to go global and try to help that way. So I went back to Nepal and did a few weeks at volunteering at a victims for human trafficking shelter for women. And I got to work alongside a paralegal, and it was very, very eye-opening for me. The way that the paralegal, fought for these women was so inspiring, and it just created this huge passion for me to want to advocate and assist through the law, through legal avenues for these people. So that was my heart and my mission. And I knew that, around year 11 and 12. So I was like, okay, I want to do law. But then finding a uni is difficult. You go to a lot of open days, a lot of people talk to you about their experiences. And it was, you have like 10 or so different unis you can go to. So I sat down and I had a look at what was most important for me. What was my interest? What did I really want to get out of law school? And for me, it was, I just wanted to get the most experiences and opportunities. Studying is all fun, but I just wanted to actually go out and help people and, practically do things. So I looked at all the law programs and fell in love with the Thomas More Law School at ACU and all the opportunities they had. And then, I applied and I got in, and the transition to high school to uni is different. And as Abe said, it's a lot more independent, and something that really helped me was getting a law mentor in my first year. A lot of law schools have societies that, as Abe mentioned, that try to help you and assist you, especially in your first year. So I got a law mentor, and they just walked me through everything. And if I had questions about, referencing or anything, I could go to them, and it was really, really helpful to have someone a bit older than me have gone through the experience and to share their knowledge. The second thing was go in as much as you can in your first year. I know going to uni sometimes can be a bit of a drain to wake up and to go every day, but it's it's really good to make as much friends as you can in your first year and ask for their socials or ask how to connect with them, because it is big. Uni is big. So you might have a connection with someone and you might never ever see them again if you don't actually ask for their socials. So that's something I did. And it's a bit awkward in your first conversation to be like, hey, can I have your Instagram? But it's good because otherwise you're going to lose them and you're never going to see them. So that's something that really helped me. The third thing was to apply for every opportunity you get. At university, there's a lot of different programs, there's a lot of initiatives. Just apply for it because you never know what you'll get. And it just really exposes you, which is what you want in law school, because law is such a big, broad field. And to figure out what do I really want to do in the area, applying to these opportunities really helped me. So a bit about myself. In my first year, I applied to go to Yalada, which is an Indigenous community in South Australia. And that was just to assist the community and the kids there for a school program. And through that, I was able to get a job at the Victorian Aboriginal Legal Services. And then I applied through uni for another experience to do a modern slavery task force. And through that, I got an internship at the Victorian Law Foundation, which was phenomenal at the start of the year. I now work at a refugee legal centre and I'm currently doing some medical law. And all of my experiences, all I want to do is assist those who are most vulnerable. I put my hand up for so many things just so that I can get exposed. And now I know I have a huge passion for immigration and refugees. So that's what's next for me. Also through uni, next semester, I'm going away for 6 months to Nepal to work at an international law firm. So it's a bit of a 360 going back and being a paralegal there. And that's through uni that supported me to do that. So yeah, if I can say anything to you, don't worry. I know right now in year 12, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of pressure to decide what you want to do. But there's a statistic that says that a person will actually change their career 3 to 4 times in their life. So if you have no idea what you want to do or you're a bit unsure, that's okay. Just know that there's so many opportunities out there and you can move around. And law school is so great because it gives you such a broad idea on, and you can use that skill in so many different areas. So if you don't want to be a practicing solicitor, that's okay. There's so many opportunities, like through the Victorian Law Foundation, which does a lot of different work in so many different aspects, like education and grants and research. So yeah, I can't wait to talk to you a bit more through the Q&A.
That was amazing, Tessa. Thank you so much. Can I just say you are remarkable. You're doing so much and it's amazing to see how your social justice passions have just continued even from when you were younger, and it's just transitioned into volunteering to law school and now going to Nepal for 6 months. That's amazing. It's perfect. And I think it's really good advice too for students who are watching to just, when you're thinking about what you want to do at law school, even at university, expose yourself to different situations, like volunteer at Vinnie's or Salvo's, or, just have a, investigate into different options that you think you may like, because you never know where you can end up.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tessa. It was wonderful. And certainly that's what I think. One of the things is that you don't have to know straight away what you exactly want to do, and that a law degree offers all sorts of different possibilities and way beyond just working as a lawyer in a private law firm. And one of the things from university is to learn about all the different possibilities, organisations and options that there are. And it can be a really fascinating journey in itself. And I think both Abe and Tessa have can open your eyes to a lot of different possibilities. And so now I'm going to hand back to Anisha to introduce our final speaker, who will also tell you about another different pathway that the law can offer you.
So our third speaker is Nathaniel. Nathaniel is a recent law graduate, currently working as an associate to Her Honour Judge Amanda Chambers, who is a judge in the Criminal Division of the County Court. He commenced in his role after finishing his law degree, the Juris Doctor, at the University of Melbourne in August 2021. He had previously completed his undergraduate degree, a Bachelor of Arts majoring in psychology, at Monash University in 2017. Nathaniel was motivated to pursue a career in the law through his experiences as a VCE legal studies student and is thoroughly enjoying the early stages of working life in the law. His long-term ambition is to pursue a career as a barrister, working in one or more of the fields of law he enjoys, which at present are criminal law, public law, and commercial law. Over to you, Nathaniel.
Thanks, Anisha and Fab and everyone at VLF for putting this event together, and thanks to you all for tuning in. So a little bit about myself. As Anisha said, my interest in the law first came about in the position that many of you would be in, doing legal studies in VCE, which I think, looking back on it now, really gives you a sort of great insight into sort of the fundamental structures and the operation of our legal system. And sort of during this period for myself, I was really fortunate to have a great teacher who inspired my passion for the law. This was both in the classroom and sort of doing more practical things, so going on excursions to the courts, which really sort of allowed me to get an insight into how the system works. I know obviously probably the past couple of years, those kind of opportunities have been limited, but I'd strongly recommend to you all, if you're interested, to come into court. It's open and accessible to everyone, and especially if you're thinking about sort of pursuing this pathway. So what I think kind of drew me to the law at that time, similar reasons, especially to what Abraham gave, I really was sort of fascinated by the intellectual sort of analytical challenge of the law, but then equally on the other side, through those experiences, I was able to see the sort of real sort of practical, tangible impact that the law enables you to have in the lives of others, and often in the most vulnerable people of our society who need the assistance of lawyers. So moving on from then, as I was finishing year 12, I was pretty set that was the path that I was wanting to pursue. Oddly, you might think, however, I waited 3 years before pursuing my law degree. I think when I was finishing high school, it was a little bit less common to do a bachelor's degree and then a postgraduate, but I think it's becoming more and more common now. So as Anisha mentioned, I completed my Bachelor of Arts at Monash Uni first, before moving on to do the Juris Doctor at Melbourne Uni. I think some of the reasons why I took that approach, why I found that beneficial in my case at least, was firstly, it was a similar amount of time to what a lot of people would do in studying a dual degree, so a law degree combined with something else. But I sort of like the idea of being able to focus on one degree first, get a bit of experience into uni, sort of the different approach, the method of studying in uni, which Abraham again really touched on and covered well, and then sort of building on that experience, moving into my law degree, which is ultimately what I wanted to pursue. And then sort of another kind of thing which drew me towards that approach was especially the JD model at Melbourne. There are a lot of sort of features of that course, very similar to Tessa, like where there was aspects at ACU which drew her to that. There was aspects of the JD at Melbourne in terms of the overseas study opportunities, the extracurricular things that you can pursue really appealed to me. So that kind of had me set on pursuing that path, and I was very fortunate to be able to get into that course. I think both Tess and Abraham covered the important aspects of law school really well, so I won't go through that again. I think what I could touch on, which would be useful, is sort of having finished law school last year, a little bit about what I do now. So as was mentioned, I was fortunate after finishing my law degree, almost a couple of weeks after, to get a job as an associate at the county court to Her Honour Judge Chambers, which I think is a really awesome job to have straight out of university. You really get to sort of live and breathe the law on a daily basis and have the tremendous privilege of working closely with a judge who, needless to say, but are exceptionally talented, smart and experienced in the law, which gives you a real leg up sort of as you move forward in your career. I think one of the really good aspects of the role, or what's seen as one of the best aspects, is it's sort of looked at as a great training ground for going to the bar or becoming a barrister, which is what I want to do, because you're sort of ingrained in the work they do on a daily basis, which I think has been really played out in my experience. a little bit sort of on, I guess, some of the aspects of the role of the associate. So I guess there's kind of the in-court functions. So you're kind of sort of open and closing court, swearing in witnesses, conducting the arraignments where you put the charges to the accused, ask to see, so it's conducted in open court as whether they're pleading guilty or not guilty. And then obviously there's the out of court function. So you're liaising with parties to ensure that matters are running smoothly, the various other stakeholders in the court, and then obviously doing work for the judge. So probably finding cases on an area that's relevant to a matter that you might have, legislation, sort of sentencing statistics. So it's really diverse. You're always doing things different things on each day, which I really enjoyed. And lastly, I think something else which sort of in the post studying law experience, which is probably worthwhile to touch on as well, is doing PLT. So this is kind of the last sort of the last step in the process after you finish your law degree. If you're looking to become to practice as a lawyer, you need to undertake what's called practical legal training. Often if you're working at a law firm, it'll be done alongside that, or you can sort of do it independently as I am now, alongside my work at the court. And I think the idea behind PLT is it's intended to be a sort of further practical and some theoretical training after your law studies, designed to sort of mimic the work that you would do as a junior lawyer. And that, as I said, allows you to be admitted as a lawyer in Victoria. I'm currently doing it at the moment and should have that finished up in the next few months. And yeah, looking forward to seeing what the next steps have in my career. I think that was all from me, but yeah, very happy to answer any of your questions, and we'll take from there. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Nathaniel. I think you touched on really great areas there, especially the different model that I think is definitely becoming more popular now, doing the undergraduate bachelor's degree and then moving to the Juris Doctor, which is the Masters of Law. I think that definitely gives you foundational understanding, focus on one degree, get used to uni, make some friends, and then move on to doing the Masters of Law, where you can really concentrate and put in all your effort in there for the next 3 years. And it also, I think sometimes like combining the two, it's a bit hard to kind of like go from like doing law and then going to like doing psychology. And it's just, yeah, I think definitely the Melbourne model is great. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts.
Thanks, Nathaniel. And it is great to see that there are, you know, I think compared to when I went to uni, a lot of different pathways now and a lot of options, as say for Abe, who said he knew he kind of, well, thought he wanted to do law, so he wanted to do it straight away and see whether he liked it, and if not, could take other options, or the pathway taken to do a sort of general degree first and then a Juris Doctor. Like, they can both work out really well for people, I think. And as I said, the more options that there are available, I think the better it is for everyone's kind of, you know, study experience. Now, we have one specific question here in the chat, which I think is possibly for Tessa, but I guess everyone could perhaps answer that, and that's, is immigration law a subject or a course? If so, what requirements are needed?
Yeah, sure, I can touch on that a little bit. So immigration isn't a subject really, like a course. There is some units you can take in law school that do specialize it in like immigration law or refugee law, things like that. But the I study a double degree. So with the Bachelor of Global Studies, and Global Studies is all focused on globalization. And we do touch on a lot of travel and migration. So I think if you were interested in migration, doing it alongside a Bachelor of Global Studies or a Bachelor of Arts and focusing on that humanities aspect is a good way. And then just making sure you get a few electives in law school. I think it's around 6. So making sure you choose electives that align with that can really help you in any area. If you want to specialize in, you know, like commercial law, you can do electives in that area, and that really helps build your CV and your resume and shows which areas you're interested in.
And we've got another question here in the chat, and this is one for probably all 3 of you can give, I think, your own answer to this. And that's, what are some good tips for students doing legal studies in high school? I suppose, in a way to perhaps optimise their results, or I assume maybe help them. Then
I think probably my biggest tip when I was in high school doing legal studies is I used to ask so many questions to my legal studies teacher, and just like gaining their knowledge and being comfortable with them as well to be able to ask questions, I think is really important, especially for exams later in the year. And also when exams do come up, this is a really important thing, is do the practice exams that your teachers give you, and do it under exam conditions, because it's very helpful and it makes the exam day less stressful and less, you just like focus so much more on the day because you're like, I've done this before, I know what I'm doing. So that would probably be my biggest 2 tips for legal studies students in high school.
Yeah, on that, Anisha, something that I did was I had a book, like a separate book. And I think the best way everyone tells you to learn is through, answering questions. So I would write my own questions, or I'd ask my legal studies teacher on that topic. So like chapter 10, can you write a few questions down? Or I'd create my own based on the content, and then I'd put them in that book and then just do them myself, because sometimes, there's only so many practice exams you can do. And that was a really good way that helped me, think in different ways and really apply my knowledge.
Really agree with everything that's been said. I think one of the hard things from VC was, having, back when I did it back in the day, was, having all those cases and principles in your head, but then knowing how to apply them specifically to the question that was asked. So always think about the question they asked, critically evaluate, describe, etc. And then when it comes to all the different stuff that you will learn, I found using flashcards, say I would have Mabo case, and then I could remember a few key points from the Mabo case. Oh, it was a question of constitutional rights, etc. Blah blah blah. Example of the High Court making a decision, and then that way I'd practice a lot. Get someone to read these flashcards to me. Hey, tell me about separation of powers. So I'd be like, oh, okay. Yeah. So I found that really helped during my VC legal studies.
Great.
Yeah, I would echo the sentiments of what everyone says. Just trying to get in as much sort of practice in kind of exam specific conditions, I think, is really what sets you up the best. Yeah.
I think as well, I don't know whether this was just me, I was a bit of a nerd in high school, but I used to have a few legal studies friends, and we used to make big posters with like specific cases and what like the case is related to, different topics. So you're kind of visually learning, and you can hang them up in your bedroom, in the bathroom, where you're going to be seeing them all the time. So it's like regularly you're kind of thinking about it instead of trying to cramming it in a week before trying to learn everything. I think like kind of spreading out the learning throughout the year, I think, is really important as well.
Now we've got another one here. What is the most effective way to study in order to memorise information, etc.? Would anyone?
Something that I did is similar to Nisha. I would get, my brain works in pictures. I'm a very visual person. So like for Mabo, I try to get a picture of Mabo or something that's related to him. So then that would really help me memorize, putting visuals and then be like, oh, I remember that case because of that photo. And then also just writing, like, I think your brain works best with writing. So just writing out the case a few times really, really helped me memorize. I memorize things by my fingers and acronyms. So I'd have like an acronym for each finger on each topic, which really, really helped me. But everyone is different. So you need to figure out what works for you. And hopefully year 11 is best to do that, because you do have some SACs, but they're not as detrimental as year 12. So try to figure out what works for you, what memorization, if is it visuals, is it writing, what works for you is really good to figure out first.
Okay, and now next, there was another question about study tips, but I think we've kind of covered that in what we've been talking about in the last few minutes. This is an interesting one. Can you study Bachelor of Law and specialise in any specific law? I would like to start.
I can speak from my experience at Monash. I guess the Bachelor of Law, at the end of it all, you kind of get the law degree, and then that qualifies you to then become a lawyer. And then at Monash, the way you can specialize in specific areas through the electives that you choose, because everyone has to do the same 11 subjects, I believe, the priestly 11, which, you know, is like a standardized thing, which basically are the foundational building blocks. But if you have a particular interest in human rights, you can choose the 4 human rights subjects that are available. If you're interested in tax, you can choose tax and advanced tax. So at the end of the day, unless you choose to do honours or further studies, you will probably have a similar law degree as everyone else, but it's your own personal specialisation in terms of the electives that you choose. At least that's from my perspective.
Great.
Yeah, and also the experience really helps, like sign up for pro bono things in that designated area, and that can help you specialize and really, yeah, get that onto your CV. I don't know about other law schools, but from my law school, instead of doing electives, you can do honours if you have a certain GPA. So that allows you to specialize as well. So work really hard in your first few years, and then you can get elected to do honours in your last year instead of some electives, and lets you specialize even further.
I think
Yeah,
also, oh, sorry, you go, Nathaniel.
No, I was going to say it's a similar sort of thing at Melbourne Uni. So you undertake the priestly 11, as they call it, which are sort of the core units that you need to do for admission as part of your law degree, and then you can sort of pick and choose your electives and kind of what you're interested in, and kind of shape your interests from there.
I think also adding to everyone else's points as well, you can also look on university. I think they call like different university websites. I'm pretty sure they all have the same standard name for it. It's called like the handbook, and you can go on there and then type in Bachelor of Laws and then click on it, and then it'll have all the different core units, and then underneath it as well, it'll have all the different electives. So you can see before you even start applying for unis what the focus of each uni is and what different subjects that they're going to offer. So I know at Deakin we offer a lot of public law kind of units, which is more focused on like human rights and social justice, but then we also have a whole different section for like private law subjects, which is more commercial law, tax kind of subjects. So I think if you wanted to kind of tailor your degree before you even kind of start, or even just get a general idea of what else is out there, I really recommend going on the university websites and then looking up their handbook as well.
And I was going to say, probably might finish up on this very nice comment to your speakers from one of our attendees saying, thank you so much. This has been helpful as a year 12 student. So I think that's a really nice thing to finish up on, and to thank you all so much, and to thank Anisha so much for all her organisation in putting this together, and to thank very much Nathaniel, Abe and Tessa, our 3 speakers. And we hope that you've all learnt something and are hopefully inspired to study law and to see the many different ways you can pursue it, and the many different pathways that it can offer you. So thank you everyone so much.